This is the Sutefoto P100RGB Light. It is a fully RGB 100 watt COB light, and I think it might be the best budget RGB option on the market right now. Let me explain. What's up, nerds? Welcome back to the channel. So full disclosure, Sutefoto did send me this light. I do get to keep it, but no money was changed hands. They don't get to watch this video before I release it, and I will be 100% honest in my review of this light. But since you're gonna see this light a ton in B-roll, I'm actually gonna switch this to be my key light so you can kind of see how it works in a talking head situation like this. All right, first off, this light is significantly brighter than my previous light. So now make sure you stick around to the end of the video because I've actually partnered up with Sutefoto to give away one of these lights to a lucky winner on my Instagram account. More information on that at the end of the video. All right, so the P100 comes in this really nice made bag. Within that bag, you're going to have your AC adapter, which is this nice power brick. You're also gonna have a strap for the actual bag, and then a reflector, and obviously the light. I'll talk about the build quality a little bit later, but you'll notice that there are 2 slots for Sony L series batteries on either side of the light. So this is a battery powered light, which again, I'll get into a little bit later. But first I wanna go over how you can control this light from the back panel. Now I prefer using the app to control this light, which I'll get into in just a minute. But on the back of the light, you're going to notice a DC 24 volt input, as well as your power switches on the right side, and then 2 knobs to set your Kelvin and to set your overall output is the right knob. You can also just push in on the knob to switch through the different settings of CCT, HSI, RGB, and to set your different channels for the light. You can access 100% of the light's capabilities via the back panel, but I prefer using the app, which I'll go over right now. But right as you open up the app, you can kind of see that there is a variety of different controls here. And right now I'm connected to the device, but if I go back, I can actually add a brand new device on the top right-hand corner, and it will automatically connect and show up as a device. Right here, you can see I have my light already connected. So when you open this up, you're going to have intensity, which is pretty easy to control. I'd say this is very, very similar to the Sidus Link app that Aperture has developed. And then you also have color temperature, so you can shift between 10,000 Kelvin and 2,800 Kelvin. As your light gets a little bit older, it's either gonna shift green or magenta, so having that adjustment is really nice, so you can kind of dial in your white balance really well. Next, you're gonna have HSI control. Now, this is going to give you a vast array of RGB options, as you can tell, and you can kind of shift around, and you have a full variety of different colors along that wheel. On top of that, you also have intensity, so we can be at 5%, or we can be all the way to 100%, or 0%, obviously. So we can also type in the actual hue, or we can type in the saturation if we want to get specific. So on the next screen, we have RGB. This is going to allow you to adjust things between the red, green, and blue. So you can either be less warm or more warm, or, you know, this is kind of just all of those standards in one little section. So I don't use this page a ton, but I do like that they add it so you can get as precise as possible. On top of that, you also have effects. So we have, you know, lightning, police, fire truck, ambulance, fire, you know, all of your standard effects that you're going to see on lights that have effects capabilities. And that's really as easy as this app is. It's just super simple. It gets to the point and it gives you what you need. That's one thing that I get a little bit frustrated with some apps, is that they try to add things that are a little unnecessary. I know that there's been a few brands that I've worked with that just make their apps too complicated. It needs to be simple, especially for a product like this that is going to be more on the budget side of things. Now, before I talk about price, I do want to talk about the build quality of this light and what you get with it. It is more of a plastic build quality. In fact, almost the entire thing is made of plastic, other than the front light column that's glass and a little bit of steel. But for a budget light, I'm not surprised, given that this is more in that lower range, beginner type of light. And that plastic isn't terrible by any means. It's not like your plastic water bottle. It is a hardened plastic and it's gonna hold up. But if you drop it, you probably will risk cracking it. So on top of that strong plastic build quality, you're also going to get a pretty well-made bag. I think it's really similar to brands like Sakani. And just the fact that they give you a bag, I think, is a big plus. Working with some of like Amaranth's lights, you don't get a bag. They give you like the box that it ships in, but that's about it. So the fact that Sutefoto actually provides you a bag, and it's a good quality bag that'll hold the reflector, it'll hold your power cables and everything that you need to operate the light, I think is a huge plus. So the only accessory you're going to get with this light is the reflector. There is no remote or anything like that. But given that they do have a free app that you can work with via your smartphone or an iPad, I don't think that any type of remote is necessary. So another feature that you're going to see that you won't see on a lot of budget lights is the capability to power this via Sony batteries. Now, I have a bunch of these Sony NPF batteries. These are 750s. I also have a couple of 950s and a couple of 550s, and I had them originally to power my Blackmagic Pocket camera, but I'm glad I had them around because I was able to attach them to this light, run it for a decent amount of time. I had it at about 50% and had it sit there and run, and I got about 30 minutes out of that at 50%. So you can kind of calculate how much time you'll get for other batteries. Another thing to keep in mind is that you can only go to 80% when you are using battery powered. So you're only going to get 80 watts out of this light, but of course you'll get 100 watts if you use the AC power. The brick that you connect the AC power to isn't that big, and it's not that heavy either. They also give you a Velcro little strap that you can kind of use to attach to a C stand or to a light stand so that it's not flopping around everywhere. But one complaint that I do have with that power cable is that the connection from the brick to the light just is not long enough. It's maybe 4.5 feet, and to me, I don't want that brick super close to my light, especially if I'm going to rig this up like super high. I want at least 6 to 10 feet with that thing. I can always wrap it up if it's too long, but the cable that connects the actual brick to the power outlet I think is plenty long, but again, I don't think it would hurt to make it a little bit longer. But I do like that feature of that Velcro strap allowing you to strap it to a C-stand arm, kind of making up for the fact that the cord's a little too short. In my opinion, I'd rather have a super long cord than have to strap it up to something 10 feet up in the air. This is a Bowens mount adapter light, so you'll be able to adapt modifiers. Like right now I have the Aperture Light Dome Mini 2, but you can attach any type of Bowens mount applicable modifier. And one thing I noticed is that the LED chip that is on the light is very big, kind of an array of multiple chips, given that it's a fully RGB light. I don't know if it necessarily affects the performance of the light, but it definitely does look really cool. Now, there is one thing I do want to address when purchasing this light, is that it does have a little bit of a high-pitched tone. I don't know if you remember those old plasma TVs when you turn them on and it would have like a really high-pitched tone for a few minutes. That's kind of what this light does. And I haven't had any of my mics pick it up, but I can definitely hear it myself. Now, I realized that that happens most often when it's in RGB mode. When it's in just CCT mode, so just using the natural color temperatures, it doesn't have that high-pitched hum or hiss. And it also is stronger when you move within the different colors of the HSI setting. So that is one thing that I think Sutefoto could address in another model, or maybe in a firmware update or something like that, is how to get rid of that hiss. I'm guessing, I don't think that it's the fan. I think it's something to do with the wiring. It also could just be my model, but it is something I wanted to address and make you aware of since it is something I experienced. The last thing I want to mention is that the knobs that you use to pan the light up and down, they're a decent build quality and they hold up pretty well, but they do make you kind of tighten that down really hard in order to make it not move. I've had several moments where I've just like touched the light and it's fallen just a little bit to like the next notch or something. It does use teeth to like use friction to keep it all together. But again, if you don't tighten it enough, it's gonna just fall when you kind of tap it. It doesn't hurt the light, it doesn't ruin anything, but it does kind of, scare me for a second. All right, so my ultimate thoughts of this light is that I think it's a very good budget option, especially given that it's fully RGB. You have app control, you have battery powered, you have 100 watts, which is plenty for a key light. That's plenty for a first light. And this light is gonna cost you sub $250 US, which trying to find a fully RGB 100 watt light that's battery powered with those capabilities is really hard to find for that type of price. So ultimately, I think if you're looking for your first COB single point lighting and you want to have full RGB capability, you want to have a little bit more powerful of a light, 60 watts may not be enough for you, 80 watts may not be enough for you, so 100 watts is definitely the ticket. As you can see, right now I'm only at 8% and it's lighting me just fine. I even have an ND filter on and I'm at F2 right now. So it's definitely going to be strong enough for, I bet, a majority of beginner videographer situations. And I think for some photographers, this could work really well as an effects light. So if you want to have a little bit of RGB to splash in the background, I don't know if it's quite strong enough for a key light, but you definitely could use it as an RGB light for backdrops, for products or something like that. So yeah, again, I think it's worth putting aside the cons, given that there are a lot of pros and a lot of benefits and specs that you're getting for such a low price. I think for a more higher quality RGB light, you're gonna be spending well over $300 unless you can find something used or on sale or something like that. I can definitely see myself keeping this light in my arsenal for future projects. So thank you so much, Sutefoto, for sending this light over for me to test out and review. Really had a good time testing it out and trying all the different features that it has. And again, that app control is awesome. Probably one of the best in like the budget sphere of lighting that I've seen. It is definitely on par with the Sidus Link app for sure. So if you watched to the end of the video, I have partnered up with Sutefoto to give away one of these awesome RGB lights to someone out there. And to enter, you just have to head over to my Instagram, which I'll put the @ right here, and you have to be following me and Sutefoto on Instagram, and then you tag 2 friends in the Instagram post that will have this light. It's just going to be like a reel or a carousel of photos, and obviously like the post. And if you share it to your story or even subscribe to the YouTube channel, those are also extra entries. You also have to be located in the US, so not offering this to anywhere else international. I'm so sorry about that. But if you're in the US, make sure to hop over to my Instagram so you can be entered in to win that giveaway. Super excited to have a giveaway on the channel. That is like freaking awesome. So pumped to be giving one of these away to you guys. And if you enjoyed this review, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell button so you never miss out on new young filmmaker content. Good luck filmmaking.